So while I'm here on the video couch, I want to tell you about a dream that I had the other night. It was an interesting dream from the perspective of a hypnotist and somebody that assists people in making changes in their lives. Now, just to set this up for you, for a long time now I've had this recurring dream that comes up from time to time, and it's recurring in structure. The content's always different, but the structure is always the same. And in this dream, there is somewhere I have to get to by a certain time. This is the format of the dream. There is somewhere I have to get to by a certain time, and I'm on my way trying to get there, and stuff just keeps coming up. I keep being distracted by things, waylaid by things, things go in the wrong direction, I get lost, I don't know where I am, and all the time in the back of my mind I'm aware that I'm getting later and later and later and not making it to where I want to get to. Now, I became aware of this recurring dream a little while back, and it's been in the back of my mind. And I haven't done any kind of dream analysis or anything. I just became aware that this was an ongoing pattern within dreams for me. And recently I started to get interested in lucid dreaming. I was reading a lot about lucid dreaming, reading a lot about dreaming in general. And I've been getting into doing a lot more inner work, so to speak, eyes closed stuff. You might call it self-hypnosis. You might call it active imagination. I don't know what you'd want to call it. So I've been doing a lot more inner work, altered state-based stuff, altering my own states and going into my inner world and that kind of thing. And had an interest in lucid dreaming for this reason. So I've been thinking about these things. This is the background. Anyhows, I found myself asleep. Well, I fell asleep, obviously, and I found myself in a dream. Now, let me tell you about this dream that I was having. In the dream, I was back with my old band that I was in as a teenager. We got back together. We were going to do a gig in a village nearby where I live now, and we were all set to go, and we were going to be on stage in about an hour's time. And I suddenly realized that we didn't have any of our equipment, and the equipment was 20 miles away, actually at my parents' house, or what was my parents' house when I was a teenager. It's not my parents' house now. And in the dream I had to go back. It was like, right, we're on in an hour, I have to go and get the equipment, and I have to get back to set up for the gig. So off I went. Now, to get back, I jumped on a bus. And as I was on this bus, the bus was going in the wrong direction. I was thinking, oh no, the bus is in the wrong direction, I can't get off the bus. And suddenly it hit me. I'm dreaming. This is that dream again. It's the dream where I have to get somewhere by a certain time and things are going to get in my way. I recognized it. It's that dream again. But of course I also recognized that it was my dream, that I was the dreamer. I was creating this. I was not only experiencing it, but I was creating it. And as the dreamer, in theory, I should be able to do absolutely anything that I wanted to do. And I thought, well, then nothing can get in my way, can it? Nothing can stop me because I am creating my reality right now. So with just using my mind alone, I opened the top of the bus and I floated out and flew right up. And I thought, right, I can just fly direct to my mum and dad's house and get the gear. So I flew direct to my mum and dad's house, very directly, nothing got in the way. Then when I got there, I had to get the gear, but the gear was all too big. It was too big and too chunky and I couldn't fly back. And then I realized it was the old dream structure trying to push its way back in. It was a distraction. It was something was going to stop me. And I remember, well, there's nothing that can stop me at all. So I just shrank the gear down and put it in my pocket and flew back up. And then I flew back to the area where the gig was. And I was looking down and I could see all these different villages. I was very, very high up, flying very, very high up. It's almost as if when you look from a plane, you see all the tiny houses and stuff. I could see all these different villages. And I thought, I don't know which one it is. From up here, I can't tell which village it is. And of course, I recognized it was the structure of the dream coming back, something coming back to get in my way and to stop me getting where I wanted to get. And I realized that I could fly down and wherever I landed could be where I needed it to be. Because I was the creator of the dream. I wasn't just experiencing it, I was creating it. So I just flew down into one of the villages and made it be the place that I needed to be. And we set the equipment up and we played the gig, and that was great. And I was feeling kind of pleased with myself because I busted out of the rules. I busted out of the rules of the dream and recognized myself as creator and taken charge of it. But it was only when I woke up and I was reflecting on it that I realized that I hadn't really at all. I mean, I kind of had, but I was still obeying a whole load of unconscious assumptions about how things should be. There was still a load of rules about how things needed to be that it never occurred to me to question or change. You see, what had happened is I thought I'd escaped being a victim to the structure of the dream. But I hadn't really. I still was. Because of course, if you think about it, I didn't have to go anywhere to get the gear. Why did I go back and get the gear? Why didn't I just, as soon as I realized when I was on the bus, go straight back to the venue, in fact, just have the bus turn into the venue and have all the gear be there? You see? I was still caught up unconsciously in rules of my own making. I was still caught up unconsciously in rules of my own making. Now, in life, you see, this is lucid dreaming. But what about lucid living? Because what a lot of people don't know about dreaming is that when they wake up, they don't stop. They carry on dreaming, you see. It's just there's a live data feed coming in. So we have all of this stuff coming in, we pull it through our cognitive processes, the dream loops, if you like, and we shape it into the reality we experience, which means we understand things within certain mental constraints. It means we are bound by unconscious rules of our own creating about what is and what isn't possible, what's achievable, all of these kinds of things. And so often in life, we can have epiphanies and we can wake up and we can think, wow, look at that. Look at how I was catching myself out. Look at my presuppositions. Look what I was caught up in, the reality of my own creating. But I'm free now. And it looks like we're free. And we kind of are compared to where we were. But then at another layer, we're still embedded in this rule set, you know, and we can wake up from that, but we find ourselves embedded in another rule set. Now, I'm known as a hypnotist. And people think of hypnosis as being about putting people to sleep, right? Putting people to sleep. This is the old school classic notion. Most people who are a bit more informed about hypnosis recognize that it isn't really about putting people to sleep at all. Hypnosis and sleep, different things. There may be some overlaps with the kind of hypnagogic state and some of the states people go into when they're being hypnotized. But generally, hypnosis and sleep are not the same thing. Now, even though I'm known as a hypnotist, what I predominantly do with people is developmental work, deep developmental work. I assist people in becoming more completely themselves, more fully, their fully capable and resourceful self. You know, start to get out of their own way in being able to create the life they want to create. And how is it that people get in their way? Well, they get in their way with the rules, with the unconscious rules that they have about how things are and how things need to be and how things should be. So I'm helping people wake up from those rules, wake up from their stories about how it all is, and start to see different possibilities, to think outside of the box. And if you think about it, you know, this is what enlightenment is. I'm not saying I'm enlightened or I enlighten people, but I certainly help people on that journey. And enlightenment means awakening. Okay, so what is it you're awakening from? Well, it's all of the crazy stuff you tell yourself about how things have to be, or the crazy stuff you tell yourself about who you are, or the crazy stuff you tell yourself about what you need in order to be whole. It's waking up from that stuff and waking up to yourself as the creator in a large degree of your experience. Just as I woke up in the dream to myself as a creator of my experience, we can wake up in our lives to ourselves as creators of our experience, and it will give us more choice. But at some level, there's still going to be another set of unconscious rules. There's always another place to go, always another reality to wake up from and wake up to. And this is why I love doing developmental work with people, because there's always somewhere to go. There's always a deeper place to go to, a further place to go to. There's always beyond where you're at, you know, and when I see people out there and they're using hypnosis, and this is fine, I'm not disrespecting this, and they're just using hypnosis to make small changes in people's lives. And some hypnotists who I mentor say, James, I'm really great, I help people out, I fix them, but they don't come back. Well, there's a whole journey of development that you could take somebody on. When you're aware of this idea of us as developmental creatures, and that we develop more by waking up, not by being put to sleep, not by being unconsciously reprogrammed, by raising our consciousness, elevating our consciousness, having our consciousness permeate more deeply into who we are and how we are. Know thyself, as it said above the entranceway at the Temple of Apollo. Know thyself. This is what this is about. Anyhows, I thought I'd share the dream with you because there's a parallel there. I would like to invite you to live more lucidly, to wake up to the rules you've been holding unconsciously that have been creating restrictions for you, to start thinking, what is it that's missing from my life, and what have I been doing? What have I been creating in my head to keep myself from that, to keep myself at my most powerful and most effective?